Charmine Johnson-Garwood went back to school at 32 to get her CXCs. Now she has 2 master's degrees and 2 PhDs. She continues her story on Profile. Welcome, I'm Ian Boyne. Charmine, I mentioned CXCs, but in your days, of course, we were talking about
O-levels.
About GC O-levels. But you said something rather engaging the last time, and that was despite all that you have been through, witnessing your mother being murdered by your ex-boyfriend, you yourself stabbed 4 times, 2 lungs collapsed, almost died. You had to drop out of school at 16 because of pregnancy, a marriage which didn't work. You don't see yourself as a survivor. You don't see yourself as a victim. Mm-hmm. Life happens and you live. Expand on that concept.
Well, it is healthy for us to have wishes and fantasies. But life is not a linear path.
True. And
Ian, you cannot let your obstacles become your goal.
Oh, explain that.
You cannot let your obstacles become your goal. You know, you see, let's just imagine you're going to the movies with your wife then.
Yes.
And you're excited. You can't wait to see Hidden Figures,
yes.
You know, because you hear it's a good movie and you really think you're going to have a good night. You're going to come back home, maybe have champagne and have a good... And then she's so happy too, and she turn around and she kiss you, and her lipstick get on your shirt.
Yes.
And you say, oh my God, I can't go to the movie with my shirt like this. Yes. So you turn back to change the shirt.
Yes.
And then when you change the shirt, now you're in a clean shirt, but the movie starts and you can't go again.
Yes.
You know, so the obstacle, your goal now is to be in a clean shirt, not to be at the movie.
Yes, yes.
You know? So
you have to navigate life like that.
You have to navigate. Life is going to throw you curveballs.
Right.
And if you get fixated on why this should not have happened, you end up lose the opportunity to make something happen.
Absolutely right. That's a powerful way to go about life. How do we do it? How do we develop that mentality, that mindset? Charmine, help us as a psychologist.
Well, you know, I talked to you earlier about even the way that we view psychology in Jamaica.
Sure.
We view psychology as something for people with mentally ill
if you're unstable,
people.
you go see psychologists.
Psychology is not for the mentally ill. It is. We use psychology with the mentally ill. But psychology is something that emboldens people to be the best human you can be. And I realized that when I went to the United States, and all these white folks they're progressive, they are doing their doctorates.
Yes.
But when I say, listen, can we meet to do this assignment? They're like, no, I have an appointment with my therapist. And I'm like, these people value therapy.
Yes, yes. And they speak openly about that therapist.
And they speak openly
in Jamaica,
about
you would
it.
hide that if you
hide
see that
it. You don't want nobody to know that you're seeing a therapist.
You see a psychologist, of course.
And so one other thing, and when I went to the United States, I remember walking on campus, and I was so proud, a Jamaican who has gone through so many traumas, to say to my professors, I have never seen a therapist. I didn't know I was...
You felt proud of that?
Yeah, I thought it was a proud thing, something to be proud of. Yes. I didn't know I was exposing my brain as someone who was uninformed. You know, so, and I remember at the end of my program, when I looked at my CV and see what I had to do, one of the things was therapy.
You had to do therapy?
To become a doctor of
Yes,
psychology, I had to
You
do my
yourself had
own
to-
therapy. And it was the most powerful experience, Ian.
That you had?
It was the most, because with therapy comes self-knowledge. And with self-knowledge comes the knowledge of others. And with the knowledge of others come together a community. And so this is not something that you put aside for mad people and think that you are above it. Because in Jamaica, and the literature shows, more than 60% of our children would have experienced multiple trauma by the time they get to age 16. But these are these are the people that go on to become mothers and fathers of the children of this society. But they don't get any kind of help to regulate themselves. Or
And they
to
need regulation. Because they can't regulate themselves. Your capacity
the capacity to
is
overcome
diminished.
sometimes is diminished.
Yes.
And our nation, our country has to give some more attention to how we care for the well-being of our people. Crime and violence is a consequence of most of our young people not getting help when they need it. And they grow up to be adults who post-traumatic stress is a potent part of trauma. And it's not trauma like seeing somebody killed. Trauma like divorce, trauma like child abuse, trauma like sex abuse, trauma like domestic violence. The literature shows that when you witness domestic violence, you are more likely to develop conduct disorder and all kind of internalizing and externalizing problem. Look at a young man who witnessed his father beating on his helpless mother, and he is a young 9-year-old and can't do anything about it. And he is a man with testosterone who believes that he should have the power to defend the helpless female. And he has to live with that feeling of being impotent.
Powerless, that's true. Powerful dog.
And he has no help.
That affects him.
It affects
And that comes out in some of the savage murders that we see.
Yes, they can't wait to destroy the adults who destroy their lives. And they have no inhibition about doing it sometimes.
So when we think about criminals, and someone was referred to dirty criminals, you see criminals, you see these murderers from a different perspective, Charmine.
I see them as people who should have, an intervention should have happened.
What happened to them?
But there wasn't any kind of intervention. And so when they are dysregulated over a long period of time, they're trying to get themselves together, but they don't have the tools to get themselves together. And so they turn to the one tool that can help, the gun.
So apart from the security strategies that we are employing in Jamaica to deal with crime, we really need to, as a part of the SMART strategy, employ more psychologists, have behavioral specialists.
And utilize them. Change the conversation around mental wellness.
Yes.
It's not about mental illness, it's about mental wellness of the nation. And we have to change the conversation. There has to be a paradigm shift.
And it begins with our understanding what our children, what our young people are going through, the effects of our dysfunctional family life patterns.
Yeah. My dissertation that I did, I looked at how parents, teachers, and clinicians themselves view adolescents internalizing and externalizing problem. And one of the things that came out of that research was that teachers have low tolerance for boys who internalize.
Let's pick up on that when we come back. Rather interesting conversation that we're continuing from last week with Charmine Johnson-Garwood, a clinical psychologist, also an industrial psychologist. She received the double PhD in psychology. We take our first break.